Right, here's the first video of different sorts of ownership. And this one's about sole trader. Now, a lot of you will be comfortable with sole trader and you think, well, I don't need to hear this. But you just got to have a wee look at it. It's worth it just before the exam. So the three things you need to know, the only things you need to know are what the definition is, what the advantages are, and what the disadvantages are of being a sole trader. Now, please don't be the guy who's got a rubbish definition. I want you to have a good definition. Now, the definition for a sole trader just seems really obvious. You're just waiting for someone to say a sole trader is when one person owns all of their business. But I just want us to have slightly more in the bag. So this is the definition. Any business is owned and controlled by one person, or they may employ workers. That extra second line just makes examiners think, okay, this person's got something in the bag. They obviously know a lot more because they know that second bit. That's what I want you to do. Right, you've probably watched this video maybe 4 or 5 times in my class, and I've watched it a ridiculous amount of times, but it's good. So if you want to know about a sole trader and watch a good video of it, just Google music, mud and making money, and they've got clips on it on the BBC website. So if you want to, that's not a bad idea, but to be honest, you've probably already seen it about 12 times. Right, so here we are, advantages and disadvantages of being a sole trader. Now, before you just listen to this, just pause it and think, do I know 2 on each side? If you know 2 on each side and you can explain them properly, then you're going to get a good mark. I'd much rather you explain 2 or 3 well than just bullet point rubbish ones. But here we go. Here are the ones that the examiners might say. Right, give me a second. Right, first one. Right, it's easy to set up. The reason why it's easy to set up is you don't have to go to company's house like you do with setting up a company. You can just start. But to be honest, the problem with the easy to set up as an example is it's not that long. What else can you say, really? Second one, and this is good, is you need very little capital money to set up. You don't need much money to set up. If you want to set up a PLC, for example, you need £50,000 of capital available. Again, it's a bit of a weak one, that one, though. It's not as much to say. Right, here's a nice one. You are your own boss. Now, if you say that, make sure afterwards you put a full stop and say, you are your own boss. The advantage of this is, it means you get to make all your own decisions, so therefore you can do exactly what you like. And the next one is, profits don't have to be shared. This is an easy one to say. Profits don't have to be shared because you're the only owner, therefore you get to keep 100% of the profits. So out of those 4, I would say the last 2 are the best ones. Right, going on to disadvantages. First disadvantage is unlimited liability. Now I'm telling you, if you don't use that as one of your disadvantages, you're an idiot, because this is such an easy way of getting a good mark. When someone's got unlimited liability, it means no matter what happens, if the business goes wrong, they can take everything from them. They can take everything from the business, but they can also take all their personal possessions. Now, a real posh term means that there is, how can I say this easily? When a firm has got limited liability, they've got a separate legal entity, a separate legal identity of the business compared to the person. What this basically means is legally, the business is considered a completely different person to the individual. So if the business goes wrong, the individual's fine. When you're a sole trader, you have unlimited liability, so legally, they see you as the same person as the business. So if the business goes bust, you go bust. That's the idea. I hope that made sense. Right, next one. Right, less ideas. That's easy. There'd be less ideas because you're the only person working there, so therefore, it's really hard to come up with more ideas. Next one. You may not have all the skills. So because you're the only person on your own, you might have all the skills to do well. Hard to take holidays or sickness. For me, that's the one I would talk about. Because if you're a sole trader, you can't just leave your business on its own. You can't just get one of your employees to do it, because how can you tell they're actually going to do it properly? And then finally, it might be long hours. Right. If you feel like doing this, there's all these different ones, and you could try and split them into advantages and disadvantages. But look, it's not about knowing all these things. So we used to have this slide with all of these things on. I don't really care if you know them all, because in the exam they don't want you to know 10 of each. What they want you to do is to pick 2 and explain them really well. So look through these ones, think which ones can I explain the best, and use them. Right, that is sole traders done. Okay, this is key. Examples of good and not so good answers. So here's one person. First of all, they've done their definition. I'm going to get my little arrow out, don't go away. They've done their definition, but they haven't said is when one person sets up a business and owns and has 100% control, and but they could employ workers. So you could have that extra bit. Anyway, advantages include being your own boss and keeping all the profit. Disadvantages is you don't get time off and you have unlimited liability. This is a dreadful answer that will make me cry if you do this, because Say it was an 8-mark question. This is how many marks you get. You get 1 for the definition. You get 1 for each point because you haven't really explained it. And then they would, even though you got 5 points there, they would maximise you probably about 3 to 4 because you haven't explained your points. So it'd stop you from getting any further. Please do not do this. This makes me sad. This is what you've got to do instead. So first of all, you say their definition, and it's a nice definition, there we are. You then leave a line, so it's obvious you're about to make a new point. Now this line, arguably there's no point doing. I mean, it's not really adding any value. But here we go. One is you get to be your own boss. This is because you are the owner, so you get to decide upon what time to start the business and when to go home. So you've made your point, which gets you a mark, and you've explained your point, which gets you the next. Right, another advantage is the fact that you get to keep all the profits. There's your 1 mark. This is because sole owner of the company, you don't have to share the profits with the partner or shareholders. There's your 2nd mark. Please, every time you make a point, put a full stop and think, is there another line that I can say? Can I say another line? If you can, try and say 2 extra lines. If you can only do 1, do 1. Then, if you did 2 disadvantages now, you'd get 8 out of 8. Especially if you do a final conclusion. So, in this case, I think being a sole trader would be best because, or I think it would be better to be something else because.